Good morning from New Orleans, Louisiana. We are live from NOLA Motorsports Park. You're watching the live coverage of the Texas Sprint Racing Series on Kart Chaser. My name is Caleb Yeska, this weekend in the booth, bringing you all the action here from NOLA. Alongside me here is another Caleb Smock. As on track now is your Microsoft class presented by Kart Racing Solutions. It was a great day of racing yesterday. We saw a handful of good races, and it was a really action-packed day. And man, it was a quite wild end to the day, right, Caleb?
Yeah, the KA Senior Race and the 206 Senior for that matter, both put on fantastic shows. Good racing all the way through. I mean, even in the micros and minis, a couple of scary moments happened on track.
Yeah,
but thankfully, everyone was okay. Maybe some torn up equipment, but hey, at the end of the day, better have torn up equipment than people who are injured. But thankfully, everyone was okay. We can continue that on today. We got the docket for you lined up. We got warm up coming to you now. And then after that, we get into heat race number 3. And then what they do is they take the average of all 3. They do a little point system, and as we discussed yesterday, mathematics is not my forte. And then after that, they then put in a formula to make them lined up for the feature event coming to this afternoon. So heat race number 3 is going to be crucial today, especially there's a few drivers, especially in the KA race, Caleb, that had a very disappointing run there at the start. A couple got taken out, even on lap 1, and they got to work it out for them going to heat race number 3.
Yeah, some big stories, right? Beckett Friesen qualified in the pole position. Junior, well, he was a junior last year. I shouldn't say junior. I mean, he's a rookie in the senior class this year. Worked his way up into the senior class. Put it on pole position yesterday, but unfortunate ending to his heat number 1 and heat number 2, right? Engine issues for him in the first heat, and then in the second one, a crash that pretty much took out almost half of the field. Big names like Blake Nash and many more were involved in that wreck.
Yeah, and that did allow an opportunity for those who maybe had a poor heat race number 1 to make it up in heat race number 2. So as you were saying, that gold number you're looking for, especially in the KA Seniors, to be inside that top 10, maybe top 15. And now we have some drivers who are looking to be outside of it. Heat race number 3 could be crunch time if you're trying to get that just over that cusp, being inside the top 15.
For sure, and yesterday was a day that we saw a lot of aggressive racing all around. I think today is going to be a lot different, right? You have a lot of guys that didn't have a good second heat because they wrecked. And then today in heat number 3, I can see a handful of guys being conservative today because they aren't going to want to crash. They aren't going to want to wreck each other. They're going to play a little bit nicer to have a good starting spot in the final. I think today's going to be a more tame day of racing, but we can obviously be proven wrong here.
I'm a little bit skeptical on that one. I think it might be a little bit more aggressive just because you kind of opened up Pandora's box. I'm talking about KA right now as well.
Yeah.
Just because you open Pandora's box, some drivers now have the opportunity to have the top 15 who thought they were originally out of it. You have drivers who are clearly outside of it now who need a good heat race number 3. I think heat race 3 might be a little bit tamed. Come time for the feature, though, especially with those drivers shaking up all throughout the field, you're going to have the normal TSRS guys who run up towards the front here, be farther back. You have some national guys we've talked about. Jake French in particular is the one I think of. Back out of retirement with his own team. Back on track this weekend. Blake Nash, like you said, can be farther down the field. Cruz also didn't have the best heat race number 1. Heat race number 2, like you said, got taken out. So now he's got his workout out for him. So it's going to be hectic, I think, a little bit more all the way through. I think it's going to be about the same as it was yesterday.
Yeah, correct. On track is, like we said, your Microsoft presented by Kart Racing Solutions. Andrew Lee Anastasio in the 243 goes purple with a 49.961 as the checkered flag flies. Brody Stoffel in second. Kimo Ahmad, who swept the class yesterday in qualifying Heat 1 and Heat 2, won everything yesterday. Finds himself down in 5th here in warm-up, 3 seconds off. At the moment for Kimo Ahmad. Maybe not showing his hand at the moment. Just a little warm-up, make sure all your stuff is working. And Ahmad crosses the line this time by. Is it better for him? And yeah, just a bit. A 52.141 for Kimo Ahmad. Not enough to take Andrew Lee Anastasio out of that purple lap. Speaking of wild rides in this class, Brody Stoffel flipped in qualifying, put it P3 on the second row. And for him, that put an early end to his day. It seems to have a new chassis here for this one. But he had a bent chassis yesterday, drove the entire time with it, and seemed to be working well for him. So good to see Brody out here again, and had a couple of podium finishes yesterday. See if he can do any better today. But Andrew Lee Anastasio in the 243. We talked yesterday about his special livery here this weekend for Richard Petty, the King. A big fan of him. That's his favorite driver. So you're going to see these young guys really just having fun out here this weekend, right?
Yeah, and like you were talking about Stoffel, too, that wreck that he had in qualifying, it almost seemed like it kind of I don't want to say mentally got to him, but you could tell that there was a little hesitation. Wasn't quite going for gaps.
Correct.
Wasn't really pushing it as hard as we've seen before. As the heat races progressed on, you could see it, especially heat race number 2, where he was then starting to pick it up. He was getting closer and closer up towards that front pack. I think he finished second in heat race number 2. So, like you said, scary ride. Glad to see he's okay. If he's running with the bent chassis, I mean, more power to him.
Yeah.
He's got a handful, but it seems to be working for him, whatever he's doing now.
Yeah, it seems to be on a new chassis today, so good to see that for him. Back on an even playing field. But yeah, yesterday on my way back up to the booth, I caught up with him and his mom, and he seemed pretty shaken up, but he was like, you know what, I'm just going to try to get past me and have a much better day today. Coming up next is your 206 Heavy, presented by TB Kart. Yesterday, it was all making more. This guy swept yesterday, qualifying pole position, a Heat 1 victory by a large margin, as well in Heat number 2. So making more, definitely the guy to beat, and I'm going to be interested to see if anybody really has an answer for him. He had a whole lot of pace in that go-kart, so making more the guy to beat here, putting a big gap on the rest of the field here.
Yeah, and a call back to qualifying where he set his fastest time. He wasn't even in the pack. They had the main pack that we're going after, which I believe consisted of Madison Knox, and I think Casey Kane was also in that one as well.
Yeah, Casey Kane, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Kyle Hale was in there. David Roddy also was one of the players. And that one, Michaela Bradley as well. Unfortunate crash for her in heat number 2 yesterday. That put her out. Actually, a handful. David Roddy was also involved in that one, as well as a couple of others that released Jason Abrams for that P2 spot yesterday. So a lot of work for these guys to do to really catch up to Making More. And I can't fail to mention, Making More actually doing double duty this weekend. I think finished P10 in the senior final, and he has. I'm not sure if he has any weight on that go-kart, but to drive the way he's been driving is just amazing for Making More, and then putting a show on it in the 206 senior class as well, right? He was a late entry yesterday, had no practice on Friday, came into it yesterday just straight into qualifying, was quick, put it on pole here, and then had a good qualifying in 206 senior, had a good showing in both heat races, putting up a crack in the top 10, and I'm Making More trying to show us how it's done here again.
Yeah, and like you said, it's challenging to say the least. That's a lot of track time that you're getting, especially with these longer weekends here at TSRS. But able to go out there and run, I don't want to say a completely different class in all of itself. I mean, yes, it's the same engine 206. A little bit lighter as the senior than it is the heavy. Obviously, that's why we call it heavy. But, I mean, you go from a class where he's dominating. He was running 4 seconds ahead of the field by himself. Then you go into 206 senior where you can't get that comfortable due to the fact you're always going to be around someone, especially, I mean, 206 senior, I think that might be the closest field. I mean, KA, yes, it's the fastest, and it's the one that people always say that's like the crown of the weekend. Right. However, 206 senior is right there with it because there's a lot of question marks up in the air. We saw that great race that we had between Jerry and Eli a little bit later on when they both stormed to the top 2 in qualifying. Heat race 1, I believe they finished first and second. Then heat race number 2, a little bit more chaotic for them due to the fact that you had Seville was up in the mix, and it seemed like everyone had the strategy of trying to just get them back into that main pack, keep them at bay, and then you can have your race forward. But like we saw, anywhere from 8 to 12 karts through the 2 heat races up in that front group.
Yeah, 8 to 12 karts it was indeed, right? It was a whole lot of drivers there. 8 to 12 towards the closing stages of that 206 senior race, and then rookie Reagan Seville under the Trackside Karting Services GFC tent here. He was able to put on a show, and I was interested to see because Reagan Seville was actually one of the only drivers that we saw go to the lead early in this race because we've talked about it, right? The last place you want to be is in the lead around this track because there's such a long back straightaway with the draft coming very much into play. But like you said yesterday, right? Reagan Seville seemed like he wanted to be in control of the race. He wanted to defend. He wanted to know what he had to do rather than just trying to get around somebody else. And interesting because turn 11, we haven't seen as many passes as I've expected. A lot of guys have been able to defend off well. If you go super low in turn number 11, it seems like you can have a good run onto the main straight and come away with the win. So interesting to see for these guys as Making More coming into the pits here early. Still not purple at the moment, actually. Not sure if he has a transponder on here this morning. As it stands, it's Jason Abrams in the 572. Well, just as I say that, Kyle Hale goes purple, 53.580, and Abrams comes into the pits as well.
Yeah, and it looked like he may have gotten the meatball flag, and that's why he came in early. Coming in, previously saw the race director was down there waving to him, so maybe something with the transponder, maybe something else that's not functioning correctly on that cart. My guess if it is a transponder, to make sure that they have it sorted out now, that we don't get into heat race number 3, which is crucial, and then sorry to have a transponder, can't get to register. We have to hand score, which especially some of these classes have 30, 40 carts. It's just impossible to hand score that many.
Yeah, and it's not just hard for our timing guy Tom, right? It's hard for us because we're just confused with who's where, who's doing what. So yeah, if I guess everybody can get their transponders on here this morning, and all day it'd be a much easier day for all of us here at TSRS and at Kart Chase.
Well, not only that, but also the silly season. Everyone's on different teams. Everyone's got different helmets, different liveries. And it used to be, for me personally, it was always look for the helmet. You could tell who the helmet was. Now everyone's got new everything.
Yeah.
A little bit harder, but we're, like you said, we're figuring it out. I think we did a fairly decent job of it yesterday. We're still improving on today, so hopefully we can bring you guys better coverage going forward for the weekend. And as we're looking on now, 1 minute left to go here for the 206 Heavy, sponsored by TB Kart. Up next, if I'm not mistaken, should be our Kid Kart field, which is sponsored by Gallery Furniture.
Yep.
That is set to go on track next. And like we said before as well, so we have we have the warm-up for all classes going through. That is free for any subscription here on Kart Chaser on Facebook and YouTube. After that, we have heat race number 3, and after that, we sort things out to then go into our features. So if you want to make sure you watch that, this will be the first reminder we give you guys. Make sure you go and become a premium member. And Caleb, as you said before, you want to make sure you do that on an Android or a laptop and not iOS device.
Yeah, for sure. And I promise you guys, we don't get paid for saying this, but we would love for all of you guys to be able to watch the racing here this weekend and not miss any of the action. So make sure to become a KC Premium member for $9.99 a month, and you can get to watch every single series that we go to. It's not just this one. If you haven't gotten, wow, that's Madison Knox going for a spin there. She's currently P1 here, 52.488 for Knox, and she's able to get back going again. But like I was saying, if you feel like you haven't had enough racing for the day, our boys over in Rotax are also putting on a stream with the man himself, Trevor Blue, one of my bosses here. So go watch that. Emery Lida and Alexander Searle are over there in Phoenix, giving you all the action for the Rotax West series. So if you haven't had enough of racing today, make sure to go watch that during our lunch break, as I think Phoenix is 3 hours behind us, so they haven't started yet. They're probably 2 hours behind us, so they aren't awake yet. So a good morning to Trevor and the crew out there in Phoenix. But for us here at the Texas Sprint Racing Series, we're having a good time here at the Winter Warmup live from NOLA Motorsports Park.
Yes, we're going to watch on Checker Flag now out for the 206 Heavy, sponsored by TV Kart. So once they come off track, like we said before, Kid Karts that are sponsored by Gallery Furniture, set to go out next. And like we said, warm-up, the most crucial thing here isn't to throw down a fast time, although when it comes time for the KN206, which is just such a big class, you think some of the guys are trying to go for position. However, all you're trying to do is take those warming body shots, so to speak, on the ribs, because this track, like we were talking about before, it's got a couple bumps to it. The curbs are a little bit more aggressive at the FIA spec, which most of these drivers should be used to. But it's early in the morning. Maybe some of these guys had a long night in Bourbon Street. You got to come out here, get warmed up, set to go, and it's almost like a wake-up call once you get back in the cart. And also at the same time, shaking down the cart, make sure everything's okay. There's no little gremlins you haven't overseen. And like I said before, that could be the smallest things, a crack in the fuel line or a clogged fuel filter that may cause some issues.
Yeah, of course, and this track is really has a lot of characteristics, right? A lot of drivers have said that it is a quite bumpy track, but it really adds to the character of the track, which I think is a great thing, right? We go to a multitude of tracks this year. We're going to Speedsports Racing Park, which is a fairly straightforward track. It's my own track, so I can't really. I love that track, really. If I'm honest, that's probably one of my favorite tracks in the U.S. that we go to all year round. Maybe because it's 45 minutes from my house, right? But that's one of that's a great place, and that's actually the second round here of the Texas Sprint Racing Series and the first round of the United States Pro Kart Series later this year. Coming up next, like we said, is your Kid Karts presented by Gallery Furniture, and we saw a handful of these drivers be super quick yesterday. Bodie Bayer putting on a show in this Kid Kart class, has swept so far, winning. He won the pole yesterday in Heat 1 as well, and then was able to come away with a win in Heat number 2. We're going to bring you all the live coverage coming your way live from NOLA Motorsports Park. Coming up next is Honda Kid Karts presented by Gallery Furniture. You're watching Kart Chaser's live stream of the Texas Sprint Racing Series. Let's take a quick break and hear a quick word from our sponsors.
So you finally want to get behind the wheel, huh?
Yeah, I've been shooting for 3 years and I've never got to drive.
Well, you're going to need some more gear than just your helmet. Why don't you go to shopakr.com. They got their inventory online and they'll ship it the same day if you order before 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
They got shoes?
Yep.
Gloves?
Yep.
Rib protectors?
Got those too.
Can they make me go fast?
No.
Here at Acceleration Kart Racing, we've got everything you need to get on track. What happens next, well, that's on you. Check us out online at shopakr.com.
Welcome back to the Texas Sprint Racing Series. The Honda Kid Karts now on track, presented by Gallery Furniture. You see multiple of these karts already racing here early on. That's the 17 of Brody Brown and the factory kart Kid Kart. Actually, that's actually a new chassis. I spoke to Billy Musgrave yesterday. He just finished that up and has it racing here already in the Texas Sprint Racing Series under Jake French's tent, Jake French Racing, out here this weekend. So good to see that entire factory team, a full American-made chassis, compared to all the other Italian chassis that we're used to seeing out here. But good to see that factory kart team, full American-made for them, and really good camp that they have under there, and some good stuff that Billy and Jake are doing here so far. Bodie Bayer though was the big winner yesterday. Has swept so far in his top kart. Won the pole in qualifying, won Heat 1 and won Heat 2 all around. So Bodie Bayer in the top kart, definitely the man to beat here in this one.
Yeah, as you were talking about too, with that factory kart being under Jake French's team, and something you got to keep in mind too, Billy Musgrave and Jake French, I mean, they were at the time, the big three was AJ Myers, Jake French, and Billy Musgrave. I mean, those two have been great friends. They've raced forever. I think since they were teenagers, they've raced against each other. Obviously, Jake French being from Texas, and Musgrave being a California boy down in Southern California. And so it's great to see that they have an All-American chassis brand. Also, another All-American chassis brand is you got a Margay out there as well. Kart number 53, if I'm not mistaken, is Caden Tutter, who is currently in P1. Margay obviously being based in St. Louis, Missouri. You see it in the four-cycle racing. Obviously, the Ignite program, very popular, especially up in the Midwest. I know it hasn't really quite branched down to your guys' territory just yet, but they do have some drivers who run also with the 206 regular. When they have the Brava, I think there's an addition that came out with that, and also in the two-cycle program as well. A little bit of shifters like we saw back in the day, but not as profound, mostly in the four-cycle division. So it's great to see a huge diversity of chassis, like we were talking about, different Italian and American. There's a CRG, kart number 11, if I'm not mistaken. That should be Trevor Knight, having some issues there as he has come to the stopped. I think that's over into exit turn number 4.
And you know what? I really think, Chris, you were talking about Italian-made chassis, and just happens that a CRG goes off just as you're saying that.
I'm a big proponent of CRG and GP. I grew up racing on GP, but it's also nice to see CRGs are coming back in full force. About 2 years ago, we saw a little bit of an introduction back in the National Series, and then they hit it hard, brought more CRGs along with them. Four-cycle class has taken off with the CRGs. We've seen a handful of drivers who've already switched over onto the CRG brands as well. So we're going to continue to watch here. About a minute to go for this Kid Kart, Honda Kid Kart, I should say, sponsored by Gallery Furniture, out on track now. And like we said, not really as fast of the times we've seen from Bodie Bayer, currently sitting P3. Caden Tutter, though, he was fast, but he just wasn't able to get up to the leader yesterday of Bodie Bayer. Maybe today it might see a little bit different, but obviously it's morning warm-up. Things could change.
Correct, and there on your screen is a 33 of Beckley Anderson, the young lady from Texas here, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to see her out here racing. I believe it's her first race in the Texas Generation Series for many of these kids as well. 9 go-karts in the Honda Kid Kart class. I think the most that we've had in 2 years for these Honda Kid Karts, and it's really great to see because this is the future of the sport, right? For a lot of these kids, this Kid Kart class is really to learn and to learn from drivers, right? Speaking of Beckley Anderson's dad, earlier today, he was telling me that he has guys like Aiden Rudolph and John Burke under his tent, and he's like, man, these guys are teaching my daughter so much, and she's learning a lot. And so hopefully they have a really good day, because that's what it's all about, right? To have fun out here at a big national series. Oh, she almost goes for a spin, but she's able to save it. So good to see Beckley Anderson can keep it on the black stuff here in this one. But yeah, good to see a lot of these drivers really just having a good time out here and learning a whole lot and being in this big regional field, right? So, I mean, it's really good to see that the sport is growing and we have more and more kids that are still eager to come out here and race.
Absolutely. And how awesome of a learning opportunity as well to come out for regional race. A lot of these guys who can run up front national, like you said, Aiden Rudolph, front runner, qualified on pole at Scusa Supernats. Great mentor to have, especially at a young age when it comes to anything out here driving into that CRG tent. They have a lot of stacked drivers. Checkered flag out now. And as of now, Bodie Bayer puts it back on top of the morning warm-up. That car number 10, Top Kart USA, out in front. And then it's the Bodie Brown up in the P2 with Trevor called back in the Heat 2, finished in third. Caden Tutter in P3, Holden Henson in P4. Becky Anderson, like you said, she was in P number 5 in that CRG. Trevor Knight in 6th, and Deacon Wargo, whose older brother was running in the 206 Cadet program, along with, if I'm not mistaken, should be Micro in P7, William Lofton P8. Although I don't think Lofton, I saw him and his dad walking out of pit road, so they've had some issues. And then Ray Foley registered, but not here this morning.
Yes, William Lofton early in for him. Deacon Wargo, his brother Derek Wargo, had a wild day yesterday. A cracked chassis in the KA100 junior class as the number 11 of Trevor Knight awaits some help here from some of our wonderful TSRS officials here to get him back going here on track. But yeah, a very, very up and down day for Derek Wargo yesterday. Struggled in the K100 class, K100 junior class. A whole lot of drivers in that one. So yeah, a cracked chassis for him in that K junior class, but he was also pretty good in the 206 junior class, where he was able to come away with the win in heat number 1. Coming up next is your mini Swift class here. It was Alex Chandler who put it on the pole. Nicholas Orbezo won heat 1, and Sawyer Chambers called his shot in heat number 2 and was able to take the win yesterday.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a chaotic race in heat race number 2, although we were able to back down. Thankfully, no one was injured in that start that we had. So now they're making their way back out on track, and you can look on the screen, and the flume of exhaust coming out from those 2-cycle engines as they're sitting there set to go out on track again. Morning warm-up, not going to be a time to go out there and push it. Some of these kiddos do just for the bragging rights. They were saying that you were fastest, but Nicholas Orbezo and Alex Chandler, they were the head of the field. Sawyer Chambers, who we saw, who I believe qualified P4, was also up into the mix. So a lot of these kiddos, heat race number 1 was a little bit of a watch with Chandler and Orbezo running away from the field, but heat race number 2, we saw some of Kate Casper and Sawyer Chambers, I can think on the top of my head, the ones that were able to drive back up to the front. Ashton Wyatt also led a couple laps here as well.
Yeah, Aston Wyatt looking to improve from yesterday. I think Orbezo was able to come away with a P3, if I'm not mistaken, heat number 3. I'm not too sure, but yeah, it was a wild day of racing, and I mean, I don't have the best of memory, but we also watched a whole lot of racing all day and all weekend round that we can't really remember who finishes where. Sometimes I forget who even qualified on the pole when we get to the races. It's a whole lot of racing all day round. So it's really tough to keep up with everything with the amount of classes that we have. But it's always a good time, and I love watching, especially some of our youngest drivers that show some respectful racing, right? I mean, we have seen from this mini Swift class, they have had their elbows out, but it's also been a really respectful race, and everybody's really kept it clean the entire way through.
No, absolutely, that's the case. We see him out on track now. Is that, if I believe, that should be the 145 of Sawyer Chambers, who's leading the pack in on P2. There's a dip down to the inside from Nicholas Orbezo. Oh, one off the track already over to turn 3, the 132 of Simon Klein, who's not quite come to a stop, able to get it back underway on track. And Caleb, as we recall back to yesterday, turn 3 and 4 has been a little bit of a trouble spot, especially in the morning parts of the day. For qualifying, for the warm-ups, everyone with cold tires going out there. It gets cold at night, the humidity builds up over track, and it kind of secretes the oil that sits underneath it up. And a little bit of a trouble spot that we saw. Interesting when we go into heat number 3, since that's earlier in the day. The heat races were in the afternoon. Now they're a little bit earlier in the morning of how that's going to play out when it comes to race time. Yeah,
correct. So let's take you around a lap here with Sawyer Chambers, who's in the Intrepid right now. Or we can go with Nicholas Orbezo, either one of these. Nicholas Orbezo and Alex Chandler have been the fastest, as well as Sawyer Chambers here. And you see that was turns number 3 and 4 coming into turn number 5 now. It's a quick chicane here, so it's a 5, 6, not really quick. It's a little bit of a longer one with turn 7. We've seen a handful of drivers hop that curb there and continuing to go with the double right-hander now. It's turn number 8 and 9. We've seen some passing points here in turns number 8 and 9, and the sweeping left-hander here in a turn number 11, where we have seen a lot of last lap passes and a lot of last lap battles. But we've also seen that it's kind of hard to pass in that one if it is defended super low. So Nicholas Orbezo there, turn number 1. Turn number 2 is kind of a slight chicane, but it's still straightforward. Then on to the long back straightaway here at NOLA Motorsports Park. And we have seen a lot of passes into turn number 3. A quick left-hander here, and you see there, again, has been one of the biggest passing points in turn number 3, turn number 4 as well. We have seen some passes like further back. I think that is, if I'm not mistaken, I think that is one of the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. That's Treb, Tucker Treb, who's currently purple with a 48.042. So a lot of passing points here in this one. We've seen some passes everywhere on this track. Everywhere you can pretty much pass. So it's really promotes really good racing here, so really happy to be here.
And if you are watching and you raced here a couple years ago in the SCUSA Pro Tour when this was the first round in 2021, you might be thinking that this looks a little bit funky to you, and that's because it's an alternate layout. This isn't the, so to speak, national layout like we've seen, the over 1 mile circuit, where if you're watching now coming down, this is into turns 3 and 4, so this should look normal to you as you're watching with Chandler out in front. But normally it would sneak back over to the right back there over on the cutout and add almost about half a track length to the circuit. It's a little bit of a smaller layout, like we said, just under a mile, about 7/10. The older layout, I think, pushed it to about 1.1 to 1.2 tenths of a mile, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me on that if I'm wrong. However, this is a little bit smaller layout because they run on roller carts at the same time. However, with doing the 7 minutes plus 2 laps, if you did do that full layout, it would probably be about a 5 lap to maybe 10 lap, or 5 to 7 lap actual feature race. So a little bit smaller layout, and it's put on some fantastic racing. I'll tell you what, I'm a huge fan of this track. You have different aspects of it. You have your long straightaways, which cause for great drafting. We've seen plenty of passes there over the 3 and 4, but also you have the technical side of it. A couple of harder corners that everyone has to nail, and the setup for it, if I recall back to the K100 Senior, it's a lot for different opportunities. Miguel Mir, we think, had a higher gear set up for the smaller parts of the track where it's a little bit tighter. Back long straightaway, every time he pulled out a line, it's like he had a parachute that just deployed. He wasn't able to get the pass done. However, once you get in the tighter parts of the circuit, he was able to get some passes done.
Correct, and you really talk about NOLA Motorsports Park, right? You have all levels of racing here this weekend. You have your rental track, right, for your novice, for your beginners who are looking to get into the sport. And you have the Texas Sprint Racing Series with a handful of semi-pro racing drivers here on this pro side of the track. And then across the street, you have the big, I guess, track across the street for all the cars, right? We have a handful of USF teams pulling in for a big testing weekend where our producer, Simon Sykes, USF 2000 champ, is gonna test here next week with a handful of other guys. Braden Eaves also in the paddock this weekend, so it's gonna be great to see a whole lot of different people in a whole lot of different cars and a whole lot of motorsports here this weekend.
Yeah, as we see the 133 of Adrian Vargas up in the Bears there, running P10th currently for the warm-up, now being able to put back on track again. Turns 3 and 4 have caused a handful of issues there for all the drivers with the colder tires and being early in the morning. And we'll keep an eye on that, especially in the heat race number 3. Most of the pack, though, is set to go. There on grid is the 206 Senior. So this is the one of the 2 biggest events that we have here this week, in the 206 Senior and the KA Senior. They're all in the cart set to go. Again, this is just morning warm-up, so it's not going to be, hopefully we think, not that chaotic. However, come time for Heat 3 and the feature, different story. The big storyline is everyone who is on different chassis and up towards the front. The 2 Midwesterners making their way down, Eli Warren and Jerry Franley, who are running 2 different teams. Obviously, Eli Warren being a privateer, Jerry being with TB Kart over with our boss, Xander Clements. They aren't the same team, however, same region. They've worked well together, especially qualifying all 3 heat races, starting on the front row. Both of them had a little bit of trouble when it came for the heat race number 2, so we're going to keep an eye on that for heat race number 3 and especially these warm-ups.
Correct, and some big stories emerging from 206 Senior all year round before the season even got started, right? So let's take you through some of them. Drew Chappell is your reigning champion at the moment. He was a 2-time winner last year at Speed Sports Racing Park and Amarillo Kart Complex. Bryce Frank was the vice champion. He's under the MGM Alan Rudolph Racing Academy tent. Was able to win the final round at Speed Sports Racing Park. Cameron Reed also working her way back into the Texas Sprint Racing Series with Reed Motorsports on her CRG, doing double duty this weekend, going from one of the slowest class to the fastest class and changing gears in the shifter. Reagan Seville, the junior champion of last year, working his way up into the senior ranks. In the 619 GFC, Regensville was able to get a heat win yesterday. Josie Chambers moved up from junior early, the youngest driver in the field, 14 years old for young Josie, and the 645 Intrepid. Braden Robertson as well, double duty this weekend for him under Trackside Karting Services. And Jerry Fandry. From a privateer to TB Kart Amarillo, and I was able to talk to Kyle Uchinsky yesterday, a great guy, and what they're doing under that TB10 is absolutely amazing, right? Seeing more and more different chassis coming into the mix, right? You have Alex Stanfield under that 10 as well, a guy like Jerry Fandry who's now showing to be quick here in that one, in this 206 senior class. Eli Warren as well from a privateer here this weekend. We're used to seeing him at Cup Karts North America. And out here this weekend for his Texas Sprint Racing Series debut. Kelvin Zing in the MGM Allen Rudolph Racing Academy. That's your guy, right? You've picked him, called your shot. You're like, you know what? I think this guy's going to be there at the end. He's kept his nose clean so far. We hope to see him at the end. Mikey Bowen as well. He was a podium finisher last year from the MGM to the Kart Promotion Kart this year. And then Samuel Jung. We haven't seen a lot from him this year. He had a 2023 breakout year. With his maiden win in Odessa, Texas last year. And then we have the 680 of Zach Rivera, was able to qualify in 5th, but just haven't seen much from him as of yet. Hasn't had the best of heat races under that VLR 10. I go, wow, one of the drivers already going for a spin. That's a 654 VLR.
Jason Harley, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that is, no, it's actually Austin Hawkins. Austin Hawkins goes for a spin there on the exit turn number 3, and just shows you that this track is still warming up here in this one. With a handful of drivers trying to make their way across the start-finish line, and a whole lot of them working together here in this one. Sawyer Roussel, the hometown kid as well. Another big story. He was late to the grid actually yesterday in heat number 2, and had to work his way up the field after being late out of the pits. So unfortunate start of the day, I guess end of the day for Sawyer Roussel yesterday. I can see DNF'd in the K100 senior class as well. So you're going to see him back going here today. With a whole lot of different groups here, and this one a whole lot of different people working together. So many drivers in this class, and we've seen elbows out racing all weekend long from these guys. Have kept it respectful, so it's been good. But I can really see this field being a little bit more tame coming into heat number 3 to have a good starting spot for the final.
And on track, it's not been as aggressive as we've seen in the heat races, obviously, it being warm-up. However, what you are seeing is everyone kind of just reminding themselves what it's like to work with different people. Eli Warren, like we said before, privateer out of Louisville, Kentucky, made the trip down here to run the TSRS first race of the season for 2024. Someone like him who isn't used to running with people down here, maybe not familiar with all the drivers, have raced a couple of them, like you said, at CK&A Grands, but not the regulars, who maybe just run the regional level but haven't quite yet branched out. He doesn't know how to race with them. Normally, when you're on track with people you're familiar with at the club level, you know, okay, this is driver XYZ. I know how they're going to run. I know how they're not going to run. I know when I can push them, when I can't push them. I can give them a little bit of a push into a hairpin, not really quite into the S's. You got to figure that all out kind of quickly, especially if you're not used to people who run with each other almost on a regular basis here at the TSRS regular season, even on the club level as well in the state of Texas. Jerry Frayne, like I said, he's under a team, so he's got a little bit of that chemistry, so to speak, to work with some teammates who are already in the 206 chassis under TV Kart. But same situation from him. He's got to figure out how to run the races on track. Good thing for them is they're both starting up front for the heat races. They've done a good job. I think they're set to be inside the top 5. If not, they'll be inside the top 10 as long as heat 3 goes well for them. But definitely a time that's crucial here in the morning warm-up.
Yeah, so here on your screen now is Jerry Fandry in the TV, and Bryce Frank in the MGM AR Academy kart. Frank in that number 2 played the vice champion last year. And Fandry in his first year here, and I think he's set for a full season here at the Texas Sprint Racing Series. So we hope he's definitely going to want to challenge for a championship berth here this year. In the first year that we've seen the TV karts here in Texas, so it'd be good to see that team challenge for a championship this year. And a guy that was challenging for a championship last year was Kelvin Zing, after having to leave Saudi Arabia for quite some time, missing almost 3 races to end the season. Missed out on that championship berth. He had a couple of wins, and then just couldn't finish it out at the end due to work. So it'll be interesting to see if Kelvin Zing can really put on a show here this weekend. And Drew Chappell as well. Talked to him yesterday. He's like, man, I think I'm doing better in the KA. I'm focusing a little more on that, but I still want to get it back and defend my title here in the 206.
And you're talking of Kelvin Zing, and like you said before, right now currently set P2 in the morning warm-up. And as you're talking about before, of how the reason why I'm a big fan of him is Mr. Consistent. He knows that there are heat races, 3 heat races in the event that then average out for the feature. He hasn't been up inside the top 3. However, he has had a poor qualifying run. Every time he's finished, I think he's been inside the top 10. I think the best he got up to was 6th in heat race number 1. Heat race number 2, if I'm not mistaken, finished in 8th. That does add up over time. If you have someone up towards the front who, yes, they may get a win or top 3, then heat race number 2, they're all the way in the back. Heat race number 3, if he can continue that forward and he's inside the top 10, if he can make up 5 positions in 7 minutes plus 2 laps, imagine what he can do with 9 minutes plus 2 laps.
No, correct. And for Kelvin Zing, I spoke to him a little bit yesterday. He was saying, he actually came at me a little bit because I thought he was missing a little something in the second heat race. He was like, no, I was just trying to keep my nose clean. There was a whole lot of elbows out racing, and I just really wanted to get through the heat race and have a good start in the main event. So Kelvin Zing has been doing just that here in this one. Bryce Frank as well. I mean, he was up in the top 10 yesterday, finished 3rd in one of the heat races, and then was able to come away with a top 5 in the second heat. And it's just been a great day of racing, right? At the moment, it's still Jerry Fandry on Goes Purple with Bryce Frank. And just to say that your guy Kelvin Zing in the 666 goes purple with 50.015 for Kelvin Zing. On your screen is Reagan Seville, heat winner yesterday, and a couple of one of the VLR drivers, and Aiden Kirk, I believe, getting past Sawyer Roussel here in this one.
Yeah, and I was looking at the charts as well as Joey Chambers goes up towards the front. Eli Warren outside the top 5, currently P9 again. This is morning warm-up. He didn't go out with the normal crew that we see running up towards that have been inside the top 10. Kind of went out towards the back half of the field and running his own deal right now. Actually, I don't think he's got a tow. If he does, it's only with a couple of drivers, not the entire field. So curious as to why he didn't go out the top 10. Maybe they're just trying to make sure, hey, you know, we're good. We've been running fast weekend long. We keep with the main pack. No point in going out there and possibly risking either bending something, breaking something, so we're just going to take it nice and easy. Checker flag is out. Everyone coming into the pits now, and I believe shifters are on deck set to, no, KA Senior, my bad, Masters, KA Senior Masters are set to go out on track next. And once they get going, we will then continue on again. There's 11 classes this weekend, and let me do some quick mathematics here. We are 6 in, so if I'm not mistaken, 5 more to go after here in the KA Senior.
6 down, 5 to go before we get racing here live from NOLA Motorsports Park. You're watching Kart Chasers coverage of the Texas Sprint Racing Series. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere.
Here at MPG Motorsports, our main goal is to provide the best pathway into professional motorsports for our entire team, drivers and mechanics alike. We're based out of Whiteland Raceway Park in Indiana. For more information, contact us at chase@mpg-motorsports.com.
Studies show that even the best current generation of simulators only convince 50% of the human brain that they are real. Here at Simcraft, that just isn't realistic enough. Developed to offer the most realistic karting sim experience in the world, all testing has shown that the physics engine used in Simcraft's Grid 1 model convinces 90% of the human brain that you are actually on track. Now that is the real deal.
If you want beautiful, solid wood, made in America dining room furniture, come out and see the new selection of beautiful dining room tables, chairs at Gallery Furniture, and best of all, buy this beautiful, oh so comfortable, made in America dining room furniture, tables, chairs, servers. Gallery Furniture delivers free to Houston area home in 3 or 4 hours tonight. Make family members on your beautiful new dining room table and chairs. Buy it today. New arrivals, Gallery Furniture delivers free in 3 or 4 hours to your home today.
So welcome back here. We are now underway with the KA Masters out on track, sponsored by High Five Performance for their morning warm-up. Already a little bit of issues there for the 411 of Gary Gallagher, who again looped it coming out of turn number 3. Problems that we've seen so far with cold tires in the morning warm-up, maybe a little bit of humidity down the track from the temperatures cooling off last night. With a little bit of a spin over into turn 3, able to recover it and continue on. Rest of the field still going strong, though, and this field is a little bit of a deep one. 23 karts in total for the KA Masters. They put on a fairly good show all weekend long. Some main events that we've been watching here, so to speak, has been from your reigning champion out here so far of Miguel Mir, right there on your screen. Kart number 1 in that LN chassis making their way through. Miguel Mir didn't have the best qualifying runs. There's 2 more that spin off there coming out of turn number 3, heading into 4 as well. Kart number 423 of Evan Coates, if I'm not mistaken, and one other I couldn't quite get the number of. But as I was saying before, Miguel Mir has been one of the big storylines. He's finished inside the top 5 for both heat races so far. However, struggling in qualifying and is having to make up for it. And then heat race 1, able to drive up inside the top 4, not quite able to catch up to the likes of Shane Owens, who took the win in heat race number 2. And I believe it was Baldus as well, who was up in the front. But was able to close back up from that poor qualifying run. Then to go to heat race number 2, struggled, had what seemed to be a too high of a gear, was able to keep up with that toe and stay with the leaders in the toe, but not quite when he was able to make a pass. Every time he tried to pull on the inside, it seemed like he deployed a parachute, slowed down, which allowed the rest of the top 5 to keep with him. Shane Burkett as well was inside that top 5 all between heat races 1 and 2. But so far, top 3 very familiar. We have Miguel Meyer, currently P1, so he has actually put it back up on top. Shane Owens P2. Pierce Baldus, who got the win in heat race number 1, is running inside the top 2 for both as well. And then looks like a little bit of change in the order. Shane Burkett in P3 right now. Again, another driver who was running with Miguel Mir in heat race number 2, was going back and forth positions, was not able to get around him, so he stayed in the 4th position for race number 2. And then Doug Foxworth currently up inside the top 5, now getting bumped down into 6th. He has been inside the top 10, but not quite able to make a huge wave, so to speak, not in a negative way, but he was just not able to crack outside that second group and make his way up to the front due to the toe and being how it was. And if I'm not mistaken, we're going to have a couple of guest speakers come from the booth here to talk us through with the morning warm-up. As Eli Warren has made it into the booth, so we're going to get him set up here. Go ahead and throw that on there for me, Eli. There we go. Eli, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so Eli, we're going to talk to you here for a second. Obviously making the trip down from Louisville, Kentucky. You and your dad came down privateers. Tell us about the weekend so far.
It's been pretty good. I haven't been on this track in about 2 years, so it was pretty new to me. I've never done this layout on this track, so we skipped the first practice Friday morning, so we only had 4. So I knew how to make them count, but we've been fast in the 206 ever since we unloaded it, so we haven't really had to worry about that one. The KA, we had a tiny bit of setup struggle. So we didn't really change it. We were just waiting till qualifying to put on stickers, and we didn't realize that it was like you first come first serve for qualifying. So we got up to the grid late, and we were kind of in the back. So it was a 7-minute session. I think the first 3 or 4 minutes, I just tried to pass to get a clean lap, which didn't really work. So I backed off, and then my last 3 laps, there was a wreck in front of me on one of them. There was a flip right in front of me. So that kind of screwed us. I think we qualified about 14th or so. In the first heat in KA, I wasn't driving that good. I think we ended up 9th, but it might be 8th or 7th after penalties. I don't know if they're doing those. But in the second heat, I got shoved off turn 1, and then that big wreck happened. And I think it was 25th after lap 1. I came home 11th, but we really got the setup dialed in that second heat in KA. So we're looking forward to today in heat 3. Hoping to start about 7th or 8th in the feature, and I guarantee you we can move forward from there and hopefully challenge for a win.
Now I want to ask you a little bit too. Obviously coming down here, you're not on a team. It's just you and your dad bringing your own equipment coming down. But tell us a little bit about the struggles you've had so far. Obviously, you and Jerry Franley have worked well together when it came time for qualifying in 206. In the heat, it seemed like you two, every time you found each other, you'd be able to work your way up towards the front. Heat race number 2, you guys had some separation. Do you guys have a mutual agreement coming into this weekend?
Not really coming into the weekend, but as the weekend went on, we kind of realized that it was just going to be me and him. We had to work together if we wanted to beat these people. So in qualifying, we kind of agreed that if he would wait for me on the grid, and we both hooked up together in qualifying. We were able to go 1-2, and every time we're together, we kind of just agreed to push each other and not fight, and I think that helps a ton, just kind of having a teammate. Obviously he's not really my teammate, but a lot of the people in the field are teammates with each other, so I think that helps a ton, and hopefully we can go 1-2 in the final.
Now, is this weekend just a one-off for your dad that you thought you'd do for fun, or is this getting ready for CKNA Grants coming in next weekend?
Well, he actually had to be down here to work with his business. And so I wasn't even going to go down here because I've been missing so much school. And my mom, we actually had a Mexican restaurant, and my mom was just like, well, he's already missed so many days. What's 2 more days going to mean? And so last week we decided to come down here, run both 206 and KA, and now here we are.
Well, we're glad to see you down here. Familiar face for me as well, recognizing you from the local Midwest circuit, and we're wishing you the best of luck. We're going to put Caleb back up in the booth, but Eli, thank you so much for being here. Anyone want to thank before we send you off out of the booth?
What was that?
Anyone want to thank before we send you out of the booth? Sorry, my bad.
I want to thank my mom and my dad. My mom lets me do this. My dad obviously is the one that works on the karts. Lawson Speed Shop for the great motor. Allison Racing Engines for the great motor. War Power Racing. Make sure you go follow the Instagram. Everyone else that helps us. Everyone's a big help, and it's been really fun. And I'm excited for the next 2 weeks. CK&A next week. Then the week after that, we have Orlando for SCUSA. So it's going to be a good 2 weeks. Hopefully we can win some big races.
All right, well, good luck to you, Eli. Good luck going forward in the rest of your season.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, so that was Eli Warren, set to run in the 206 Senior and KA Senior up in the booth. And Caleb, I got to tell you, KA Senior, we were looking at it. Miguel Mir, your boy, he's up towards the front again.
Yeah, so Miguel Mir seems like he's found a handful of pace in his LN cart. So hopefully he can get it done here coming up shortly. We're going to take a quick break here. Not going to go to commercials, but we are going to go quiet here for a second. So me and Caleb Smock can save our voices here a little bit. Don't go anywhere.
All right, so sorry about that. I had a little problem there with muting and unmuting, but we are set to go now. So that was your K8 juniors that have come in. Fastest man out there, Tyrone Kemper Jr. puts at P1, David Ybarra P2. And it looked like a little problem there for Graham Trammell. Came in early and he was analyzing the back of his cart, so I think he may have been having some issues here. Hopefully he can get it sorted out and back underway. Santiago Duran puts it up into P3. Cash Perkins, we've seen a little bit, but not a whole lot from. He was starting to make some waves there in the second heat. Now finds himself up into P4, and Derek Wargo rounds out the top 5. So we're about to turn things over here to Caleb shortly, get things going with some interviews. So stand by for a second as those are coming.
Well, thank you very much to Caleb Smock. I'm here with Sean Owens out of Dallas, Texas. Sean, I mean, you're in the K100 Masters class this weekend. We have seen you in Las Vegas last year towards the end at Rock and a handful of other races this year. I mean, tell me what it's like so far, right? This warm-up seemed to be pretty good for you. You had a whole lot of pace yesterday. You were able to get it done in the heat races as well. So, I mean, just talk to me a little about the K100 Masters class so far.
It's awesome, man. There's a pretty lively field here. We've got 24 drivers and, you know, some pretty heavy hitters. You know, a good friend of mine, Miguel Mir, you know, trying to keep me honest out there. And, you know, toward the front, it's actually been pretty good. You know, been pretty smart racing by most of the Masters guys, but you know how it goes, man. Sunday, Sunday, different mode hits, and sometimes the brains turn off. So you never know what's going to happen, but.
Yeah, of course. So for you, you were able to win heat number 1 and heat number 2 yesterday. Pierce Baldus was able to win the qualifying. But you have the first 2 heat victories. I mean, what's the strategy going into today, right? Thinking about keeping the nose clean. It seemed like yesterday you just pushed all the way through with Pierce, and then in the last couple laps you seemed to make the pass. You know, what was the thought process behind that?
Just push to get away, make it a 2-man race, and go from there, man. Pierce had, you know, pretty good infield. You know, I could suck up to him and give him a little push down the straightaway. Together we're faster, and we got some fast guys behind us. So, you know, the thought was, you know, try to push him away and, you know, make it a 2-man battle at the end if it has to be that. But, you know, just heat races, man. We just need to finish and, you know, get the points and get that good starting spot for the final.
Correct. And speaking of heat races, right, it was a wild one yesterday in the K100 senior class. I mean, what can you tell those younger drivers that are racing here today? You know, if you were in that senior class many years ago, if you were 16, 17, you know, what would be your thought process going into this race after a big wreck that happened yesterday?
Well, a lot of it is, man, you got to put the horse before the carriage. You know, you don't climb a mountain in a day. A lot of these guys, you get a qualifying run, you start 30th, you know, 35th, and you think there's something that you're going to do in one lap that's going to, you know, make the difference. Right. But you know, there is something you can do. It's called wreck, and you know, you can lose it in the first lap, but you can't win it, right?
Right.
But, you know, just got to get everyone to, you know, calm down. It takes some time, man. You know, the guys at the front of the field have been doing this for years. Guys, you know, closer to the middle, toward the back, you're, you know, younger drivers and not as much experience. But you know, the biggest thing is you gotta survive, man. Yeah. Heat races don't get trophies, so you gotta get your points and, you know, get your good starting spot for the final. But you can't do that when you're on the meat wagon coming in.
Yeah, correct. And switching gears here a little bit, you are, I guess, a local at DKC. You know, explain to me a little bit about your role there at Dallas Karting Complex. We are going to go there in the Texas Spin Racing Series later this year. You know, what's to expect for these guys at Dallas Karting Complex and your team out there?
Oh, we're psyched for it, man. You know, we've got, you know, the new pro track. We've got 2 tracks now at the complex, and we've got one dedicated for rentals and one for race cars. But man, it's been just getting bigger and bigger with members. You know, our club races are getting bigger. The local scene's just growing. You know, I run all of the race stuff, all of the kart shop, and, you know, building engines there too. It's just getting bigger and bigger for us, man. We can't wait for August. It's going to be a good time.
Correct. And with you guys added to the schedule, we have seen a boost in numbers here this weekend, right? Last year we were hitting the 140s, 150s, and now it's almost at 200.
Yeah.
You know, what's that like for the Texas karting scene? Because it just seems to be growing more and more every year with you guys as well, like you said, right? More and more members beginning to join the track with the expansion you guys had.
Oh, we've got a great series. You know, TSRS is, you know, this is about as professional as it gets. You know, it's a good time to be a Texas racer.
Yeah.
200 entries for a regional event. 23 masters for us. That's as big as it gets before Vegas. The one-off race at the end of the year. Just a good time to be a Texas karter.
Yeah.
Can't wait for all the other races. We're going down to Houston and good tracks. We got speed sports. New track, Kart Moto, and the DFW area. It's going to be a lot of good venues this year. I think it's attracting more people, and just the professional atmosphere and the way everything's run here is just really kind of attracting everybody. All the California guys that have nowhere to race. Guys from all over the country are starting to show up here.
Correct. So it was great to have you in the booth here with me for this short time. Are we going to see you for the rest of the season? Are you going to get stay in the seat all year? Or you just the one-off for you this weekend?
One and done. I got a baby coming in July, and I got a hall pass from the wife this weekend to come have some fun. But hopefully I make my comeback in Vegas again, and until then I'll be turning the wrenches, man, having fun.
Well, congrats, and it was great to have you. Congrats on the baby as well. It's great to hear. That was Sean Owens out of DKC joining me here in the booth. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you.
On track now is your shifter class presented by Houston Freightliner Western Star. Cameron Reed, currently purple, 42.129 at the moment in her CRG. Vincent Cassard in second here, and Justin Dietrich in third. Dietrich is the last name. I've been mispronouncing that all weekend, but hopefully Justin has a much better day than he did yesterday. A wreck for him in heat number 2, and not the best. Not the best first heat. I think he was able to work his way into the top 5. Just wasn't the best that he would have wanted. I think, though, he does have the best tires out of anybody else in this field after crashing in heat number 2 and having a couple of more issues. So Justin Dietrich in his race to 50 here has 30 states down, 20 to go, looking to go to Alaska in a couple of weeks, maybe this year. Already has 30 states down and 20 more to go. So exciting to see by Justin Dietrich.
welcome back here to 206 Cadet, and it's already been one hectic start. We had a pileup coming out of pit out, and now we've had a couple go off over into the exit of turn number 3, entry turn number 4, and they've come to a stop. That is the 212 there on your screen. If I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can double check this to make sure I find the cart number. That is Garza and that CRG coming to a stop. I couldn't quite get a cart number on the other one there. Hopefully that they are okay. It looks like they're both rolling it back under track, and I believe everyone now is underway, especially after the pilot we had coming out of the pit. So this is your 206 Cadet here live on Kart Chaser. We are at TSRS round number 1 here of the winter warm-up in New Orleans. We are south of New Orleans at NOLA Motorsports Park. Beautiful facility here, and we have been blessed with some awesome racing all weekend long. This track, different features. It's got the long back straightaways. It's got your sweeping corners. It's also got some tighter parts of the track. This layout has been a little bit unique and different, putting on some fantastic shows. Difference in setups allowing for more opportunities to exploit different driving styles here this weekend. The 206 Cadet has been dominated by different individuals here as we watching them go across the line. From looking down the order, Theodore Mitchell has been one that's been towards the front. Westbrook as well. They've been inside the top 5 most of the weekend. Tanner Barsh has been one of the top 2 all weekend long, along with Ashton Wyatt as well. Benjamin Osborne up in the order as well, along with Simon Klein. So different opportunities here from some of the different drivers. Marshall Steves has been inside the top 5, as there is the 251 and the 211. The 251, Tanner Barsh of the Barsh brothers, he has been up towards the front all weekend long with that Burrell art of Ashton Wyatt, that 221 running white there until there on your screen. That's Steves in the silver helmet, the GFC, running in that second position. If I'm not mistaken, he is the 265, so he has been inside the top 5 as we continue to watch him. Again, morning warm-up's well underway. This is not for position. Fast time does not count here. This is mostly just the drivers have the opportunity to give a little quick shakedown of their cart, take the morning blows and on the sides of the ribs and wake them up here, as there's the 212. Again, if I'm not mistaken, that should be the same CRG. Rudolph Garza been struggling all weekend, or struggling all warm-up, I should say. He went off there in turn 3, now having more issues here now. But when we talk about the, so to speak, morning shots, you have to take over on the sides of your ribs. Your body goes through a beating here in these carts because your only suspension is your body and the flex of the chassis. So a lot of times on bumper tracks like this, you got to just take a little shot or 2 to the sides of the ribs here to wake you up. It's almost like boxers have to go through before they get ready to go for a big fight.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of big fighters in this one too, right? Aston Wyatt, Tanner Barsh in this 206 Cadet class. Tanner Barsh, a whole lot of pace yesterday. Put a gap on the field. Spoke to Aston and his dad earlier this morning. They had issues in this one in heat number 1. He was able to come away with the 30s. I was like, I don't even know how the kid did it, right? He was like, the cart was supposed to just tear down and not work, and that would put him terrible in the points. But it ended up working out for Aston yesterday, and Mr. Aston Wyatt was able to get going again. And if I'm not mistaken, he was either got the win. He did get the win in heat number 2. So Aston Wyatt got the win in heat number 2. Tanner Barsh in number 1, and Aston starting on the pole again. So the points are going to look quite interesting coming into this one today.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was taking a little yawn there. It's been an early morning as they watch the rest of the field making their way down into turn number 3. And Kill, I tell you, turn 3 and morning warm-up has not been anyone's friend so far. Yeah. There's been issues in this class so far coming out of the pits. I think that's the first we've seen all weekend. But I'm getting a little worried now coming up for heat 3, which we're going to go straight into after this one. Again, if you are not a KC member, make sure you get your subscription set ready to go here for the heat rates coming up. But what I was saying, turn 3, it did cause problem qualifying, caused problem morning warm-up. After the lunch break, when the sun was up, the track had time to get some temperature in it. No issues. Now heat number 3, they're going to be on cold tires, going to be packed up, barreling into that corner. What are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, I mean, I really hope, and I'm sure the track will grip up by the time we get into heat racing. With the more rubber that gets I guess laid down around this place, but I think tire warm-up is going to be critical for some of these guys, right? And tire pressures as well. We've seen some carts. Oh, as we have a spin here on the main straight by the 207. Still on your screen though is a lot of other drivers here in this field that have been super quick as well. But like I was saying, tire warm-up I think is going to be critical, and tire pressures are going to have a lot into play in this one. right? A lot of people choosing to go different ways, maybe start with the higher tire pressure, and then you'll be quick at the beginning, but you'll obviously fall off at the end, right? Start with a lower tire pressure, you'll be quick, you'll be kind of slow and struggling for heat and grip at the early stages of the race, but when it comes to later on in the race, it'll definitely grip up and you'll be quicker towards the end of the race. So it's definitely finding that little happy median for these guys. I'm just going to be interested to see what these guys can really do out here, right? We've seen a lot, right? Some of the guys may struggle on the start. If you're on a lower tire pressure and you can get a good start, then it may end up benefiting you when it comes to the end of the race. All this is going to have a lot of effect, though, in the main event, right? So far in the heat races, they are kind of short, so we haven't seen many guys struggle too much, but it's going to be something to watch here today.
No, I absolutely agree with that. Checker flag is currently out here for your 206 cadets. Up next is your 206 junior. Again, if you're watching live here on Kart Chase, the 206 cadet sponsored by Rimrock Raceway. Up next, 206 junior coming to you live here on Kart Chaser.
Welcome to Rimrock Raceway, the premier karting facility and motorsport-themed venue in West Texas. While you're at the track, be sure to stop in to Victory Lane and enjoy our full-service bar and event center. We have live music and entertainment weekly, along with Texas's fastest go-karts available to the public. Located on West Highway 80 in Odessa, get your adrenaline pumping at Rimrock Raceway and live life full throttle.
On track now is your 206 junior class presented by Seville Electric. After these juniors, it's going to be your KA100 senior class for their first time on track here on this Sunday. In this 206 junior class, though, it was Robert Arena putting it on the pole position. Derek Wargo able to take away heat number 1 in his comp kart. Not able to repeat in the second heat, but Chris Tracy in heat 2 was able to come away with the win. We have seen a lot of teamwork here in between Arena and Tracy, continuing to push to each other here in this one. Shelby Ramirez as well hasn't been able to crack the top 3 for Shelby Ramirez, but she's still very much trying to, and hopefully they found pace overnight, as well as Jacob Oakes, who is rounding up your field here in this 206 junior class presented by Seville Electric. This time by, it's going to be the first lap that they have put down for Chris Tracy. Across the line, what does it look like for Chris Tracy? It's 52.611 for Chris Tracy, and it's a 52.538 for Robert Arena. So hopefully he can. They can find some pace. Ramirez actually goes P3 at 52.893 for Ramirez. Derek Wargo at 52.912. And Jacob Oaks 54.172. A good lap time so far in this one as they still try and get heat into their tires early in this one. Caleb Smock actually told us a lot about that, right? Tire warm-up has been critical here in these these early mornings, right? It gets cold here. Temperatures drop down to almost the 40s here in New Orleans. And we have some temperatures drop, and then they rise back up here as soon as the sun comes out and starts shining. And then when the sun goes back down, the mosquitoes come out. We're so close to bodies of water out here in New Orleans. But it's always a great time here from NOLA Motorsports Park as Arena goes purple with a 51.507 for the 353 GFC. His teammate of Tracy was a little bit slower, 100th of a second slower than Robert Arena. So Tracy at 51.518, Largo about 4/10 off of the pace in this warm-up, but like we've said multiple times this weekend, right? The warm-up sessions are about just keeping your stuff together, making sure everything's working, making sure everything feels right, testing out maybe the last bits of setup that you can put into the go-kart, and getting yourself ready, mentally ready for heat number 3 and the main event. Again, if you want to watch the main event and the second heat race, make sure to become a Kart Chaser Premium member for $9.99 a month on any Android or laptops devices. So if you want to become a Kart Chaser Premium member and catch all the action, you won't just be able to watch the Tech Sprint Racing Series, you'll be able to watch all racing series that we go to all year round and see some of your favorite drivers. And also, if you've had enough of my voice or Caleb Smock's voice, you can head over to our second stream this weekend over at Road Tax and tune in with Alexander Searle, Emery Lida, and the rest of our crew to watch the Road Tax West Trophy final. But this is a Texas Sprint Racing Series, and we're having a good time over here. Derek Wargo into the pits early in this one already into the pits, and Tracy and Arena stay out on track here. So setting in some good lap times. Tracy was fastest at 50.827 for Chris Tracy. Arena at 51.018 for Robert Arena. Shelby Ramirez goes up to P3. Derek Wargo goes back to P4. 8/10 off of the two leaders here. Almost a second and a half, a little bit over a second and a half for Derek Wargo. I don't know if he has some sort of issue here early in this one to get it figured out, and that's exactly what warm-up's for. So hopefully Derek Wargo can get his go-kart figured out here for the main event, as he has been super quick, was able to take a win yesterday in the first heat. Hopefully he can repeat here in the second one with Chris Tracy. Coming up next, though, is your KA100 senior class presented by CRG Nordham as the checkered flag comes out for these 206 juniors presented by Civil Electric. On grid now, after a couple words from the race director, is your KA100 senior class, the main event, the headline class here at the Texas Sprint Racing Series. With so many drivers there on grid, a lot of drivers. Good to see them back out here today after a hectic end to heat number 2. I guess hectic start, I should say, to heat number 2. Blake Nash, I believe he is going to get back on track here in this one. We're going to try and keep up with as many drivers as we can in this warm-up session. as we know, there is so many to keep up with here in this one. Some big stories coming into this weekend before a handful of driver changes before the season started. One of the biggest one, Aiden Rudolph switched from the Red Army to the Italian-made kart in the CRG, and he has been super quick this weekend. In the first stages of today, juniors, a handful of juniors moving up. Justin Music, Beckett Friesen, Landon Skinner, Diego Guillo as well, who just signed a USF Juniors contract with Zanella Racing, and he has a test day here this weekend as well, so a busy week for Diego Guillo as the USF haulers start to work their way into the paddock. Peyton Phillips as well, the 2023 champ. Early end for him yesterday in the heat number 2, crashing as well. Eli Warren, we heard from him. Blake Nash, I'm still not sure if Blake Nash is going to be out after, I think, a bent chassis for him yesterday. So we're going to find out when they take the track. And more drivers that switch teams, right? Landon Skinner from Alan Rudolph to Trackside Karting Services. The reigning junior champ, was the champ last year in his rookie season. Alex Stanfield from the OTK that we're so used to seeing him in. Over to the TB Kart Amarillo team, as well as Jake Faulkner, Jake French with his new team, Brady Robertson from the CRG to Trackside, Jesus Vasquez Jr. from Nash to the GFC. So we're going to see a lot of these drivers go out for the first practice here today, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them be a little more tame than they were yesterday in the second heat.
No, absolutely, that is the case. And you think it's going to be a little bit more tamed? I think it might be a little bit less chaotic than what it was yesterday, but I still think it's going to be chaotic. Like you said, a big toss up there in heat race number 2. Like the likes of Blake Nash, Cruz was another one that was mentioned. When you're talking about Aiden Rudolph, I made the switch over to CRG from being on the Burrell Art. He has had a very good weekend. First weekend out of the box, he put it up in the top 3 for heat race number 2. He had one heck of a drive in heat race number 1, making that pass on the outside going into turn 3, which I don't think we've seen since or yet. And now they're looking right there on the top of your screen, or on the right-hand side of your screen, I should say, is Aiden Rudolph out in front, along with the rest of the cavalry, so to speak. As you said, one of the biggest fields, 30-some karts here in total.
40 go-karts, yeah.
So it is, 40 exactly go-karts out here this weekend. And a lot of big names as well. It's not just all the local guys. Jake French, like we said, that's in it. He's currently registered at the top. He's going to have a turn time. Aiden Rudolph, Landon Skinner. He's been big in the regional and a little bit in the nationals as well. JD Lamping is someone who we've seen from a lot. Justin Music, like you said, making the switch over into the seniors for the first time. So a lot of big names. Jose Vasquez Jr., another junior that's making his debut run here in the senior class. Blake Nash out of California making his way here as well. Eli Warren making the trip down from Louisville, Kentucky. And Adrian Cruz, I'm telling you, he has not had a good weekend, but I think he might pull some magic out of the hat here for race number 3.
Correct, and I wonder if we can take a look at Jake French here in this field. He seems to be having issues. Oh, wow! One of the Iron Rock Motorsports carts goes straight into the wall here. That's the 918 that's the 918. Let's see if I can get that name for you guys here shortly. That is Chase Suplee, so into the wall for him. On screen now, we're gonna look at Jake French yesterday. It seemed like he was having some type of engine issue here, but on screen is Preston Pico and Beckett Friesen, I think, if I'm not mistaken here. And there's Jake French. He seemed to be looking towards the wall, messing with the needles in his engine, looking at Billy Musgrave there on the fence line. I don't know if he has some sort of engine issue for Jake French, but it seemed like it could be an early end to his warm-up here if he doesn't already have it figured out.
Yeah, and it could just be dialing it in. It looked like he was okay coming out of the main straightaway. Granted, not putting out as much performance, and again, hopefully we can get a look at him here shortly. But it looked like he was a little down on power, but he was still running with the pack. He wasn't falling away from it. He has fallen away from the pack just a little bit. The pack in front of him currently being led, I believe that is Eli Warren, who's just out in front of him. Jake French was also running close with our own Xander Clements out in that mid-pack. I think they were running around in between 10th and 15th. They were kind of falling back and going forward. Obviously, French, a lot of experience coming out of retirement here. There he is. Looks like he's not messing with it as much. He's not taking a peek over there on the side to look at his team, so maybe he's got it figured out. It looks like he's kind of maintaining that gap with the rest of the field, so hopefully he's okay.
It looks like he's using a lot of time down that back straightaway here, Caleb. So I think that there may be some sort of issue with that engine for Jake French, which is not what he would have wanted. He was kind of caught up a little bit in that wreck yesterday. Had some scuff marks on his factory kart livery. So hopefully he can get his issues figured out here in this one. He seems to be losing a little bit of time, but hopefully he can get it done. And another big talking point, I think Aiden Rudolph actually closing down the gap on Vasquez Jr. and others ahead of him. So it's definitely something. Actually, yeah. So Aiden Rudolph going down the back straightaway now. Actually, already passed Landon Skinner and Jesus Vasquez Jr. So I think that CRG is absolutely on rails here in this warm-up session, as he is fastest, a 44.292, 3/10 of a second quicker than anybody else in this warm-up session already for Aiden Rudolph, who seems to be the man to beat early on in this one.
Yeah, Blake Nash also quick, currently P2. Eli Warren, who we interviewed with him earlier today, he said that he was having some trouble here with the KAs as far as when to go out in qualifying. He's currently set P3, so he's going to be looking for a recovery race here today for heat race number 3. Diego Guillo, who we've talked about a little bit. Look at his time. He's up there in the top 3 now, and he's not too far off of Blake Nash in P2, but about 0.13 seconds is what Aiden Rudolph has over the field. I think not only is that chassis hooked up, but he has got a motor this weekend. As we've seen, he gets awesome runs down out of turn 2 going into turn 3. Able to pull off the move around the outside. It's like he's got an extra gear he can go into going that back straightaway.
Yeah, it seems like you and Jeffrey and the CRG Northern team have that CRG dialed here this weekend. As the checkered flag does come out this time by, it's Aiden Rudolph still fastest. Blake Nash, wow, a 44.422. And I think that's on a bent chassis for Blake Nash after a big wreck for him yesterday. Across the line goes Rudolph now. Let's see if he can improve. He doesn't, but still, and I'll tell you what here, Caleb. The fastest lap that Blake Nash set was the 6th lap, a 44.350. Rudolph was only a 10th off of that, off of the fastest lap of Blake Nash. So Rudolph has a whole lot of pace in that go-kart. Skinner goes 3rd, Vasquez 4th, Diego Guillo, we saw him crack into the top 4 yesterday after getting past Alex Stanfield. So Guillo's going to be 5th here in this one. Justin Music, the rookie, in 6th, Eli Warren in 7th. Braden Robertson down in 8th. We saw Braden Robertson be quick yesterday as well. They're going to be one of the contenders here this weekend. J.D. Lamping across the line 9th, Adrian Cruz 10th. Let's see where Jake French actually ended up in this one, because it looked like French had some issues, and I actually don't think he has a transponder on here in this one. No time for Jake French in this one, but a couple of other big names here in this one. So Jake French, the 961 factory kart. No transponder, I don't believe, here in this one. And a whole lot of other drivers. Beckett Friesen as well. I think a bent go-kart for him. I'm not sure if Friesen had a wrecked go-kart yesterday that couldn't continue on to today, or if he's just on a different chassis coming into this one for Beckett Friesen. We know a lot of go-karts got torn up yesterday at the end, at the start of the second race. Here you see Blake Nash. That's one of the go-karts that actually had to get straightened out yesterday with a whole lot of other guys. Stanfield, only 13th for him in this warm-up session. These guys obviously aren't looking to win warm-up here today. They're looking for the big one, right? Round number 1, and set yourself up for a good championship berth here at the Texas Sprint Racing Series.
No, absolutely. And you can stay tuned to watch all of it live if you're a KC Premium member. We're about to make the switch over because we're about to go into heat race number 3. So if you haven't yet, this is your last opportunity, or actually I should say last opportunity before we get into heat race number 3, to make that purchase there to become a KC Premium member. Again, we recommend doing it on a laptop and or Android device. If you do it through an iOS device, Apple is going to charge you $3 extra that we don't see. That's going to go straight there to Apple headquarters in California. So we're going to send you off here from the normal coverage. We're going to send it over to the premium, and when we come back, we're going to have heat race number 3, the final chance to improve your position before going into the feature, coming to you live here on Kart Chaser.